Welcome to the Real Guy Podcast. This is Captain Jeff along with Stephen Busacca. This is where real guys talk about real things. Thanks for joining us today. And I wanted to start this episode with letting you know about Stephen Busacca, who he is, where he came from, and everything. So, Stephen, glad to have you here.
Pleasure to be here, my man. What's going on?
Well, this is going to be actually our second podcast. We did a small recording with Lamont the other night, and it's more of a test podcast. All these podcasts, we're going to call it like pre-season, if you know what I mean. And then we'll get the cool intro, and we'll learn how to get the voice levels a little different and a little better, and maybe even figure out the air conditioning problem. But anyway, I wanted to take the opportunity today because a lot of the people out there are going to be hearing these podcasts for the first time. And we're going to have lots of different people on the podcast, but we're going to have our regulars. Steven's going to be a regular. He's a real guy. He's a guy that I hang out with, friends of the family. And I met Steven through our social media network. It's been a pleasure ever since I've got to know him. Now, Steven, how did you find out about the, just call it the Lunker Dog social media network?
So I had a buddy, this is going a couple years back now, you know, he saw that I was really getting into saltwater fishing because originally I started with freshwater. And when he found out that I was getting into saltwater, I was asking him, I said, is there any, good videos on YouTube that you can kind of point me towards that that I might enjoy, might kind of help me out, help me kind of basically to be a better fisherman.
Right.
And so he told me about, he goes, you ever heard about Captain Jeff Maggio? And I said, no. He goes, well, look up Lunker Dog Fishing and the Mullet Run. So I did, and I got to tell you, as soon as I saw a lot of your beach fishing videos for Jack and Snook, that was what initially caught my eye. I said, this is what I want to do. This is what I like doing. I said, that's what he's doing. So that was how I kind of got turned on to the whole network and the social media. Now, when it came to actually me and you, you and I had originally met at the Stewart LunkerCon back in 2016 over down at Pirates Cove.
Okay.
And then a buddy of mine who was a good friend of yours had brought me over one day because he needed a ride over, so came over, and it was just like, hey, yeah, how you doing, bud? And it was funny because I knew that your last name was Italian, which my name is too, and I asked you what part of Italy your family was from. And as soon as you said Sicily, I knew we were going to click like that.
See, history doesn't show that with the Sicilians,
No.
Sicilians don't usually get along.
Well, that's usually the Sicilians and the Calabrese, but that's a whole nother story right there.
Anyway, so basically you found the network through YouTube, through the fishing videos from another friend of yours that was into it. Okay. All right, so it's kind of like what you call like a referral into the network.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Yeah. When you were watching the videos and stuff, did that help you? I mean,
I will be 100% honest, and I'm not just saying this because we are on the show. Those videos actually helped me out quite a bit in terms of technique. And I'll give you one quick example. I had a very bad habit of whenever I would hook a big snook on the beach, I would always let the rod tip go down. And one thing I had noticed was you got to keep that rod tip up. And the other thing too is, and Drew Vason of course can attest to this too, is short pumps. Okay. Short pumps and get that fish to the shore.
All right, so angling techniques you were able to pick up from the YouTube videos. One thing about this podcast, Stephen, is we're not here to make anybody fishing experts.
No.
Now, there's lots of stuff that we've done on YouTube, and that you might be able to pick up some tips or something might help you because that's the way we fish or whatever. But kind of like the videos, we're going to do a little bit of that, and we'll actually talk about that. But this is not like going to be a how-to show. This is going to be a show where real guys talk about real things. And, it's, I don't know, we'll talk a lot about fishing philosophies. We'll talk about different ways to fish. But we're not going to sit here and act like this is the place where you're going to learn how to become an expert fisherman. Because one, I don't think you can do that through social media. And I think if you just watch other people fish, you can apply it to the way you might fish or not.
it kind of goes back to, just watching somebody do it too, and actually getting out there and doing it are two very different things. Because, you might see somebody do it a certain way, and you'll try it, and that way might not work for you.
Right. Right.
But a lot of it comes down to is the thing that really caught me off guard with the lunker dog fishing and the mullet run is that there were different kinds of videos. It wasn't all just beach fishing.
Right.
There were also, I gotta tell you, some of my absolute favorite videos to this day are the Salt Life Confessions.
You mean the...
I used to be so Salt Life.
Yeah, I'm so Salt Life. I'm so Salt Life. Oh, man, people had a good time with I'm so Salt Life. I'm glad you brought that up because that's the type of content, that's the type of stuff that I think has separated us, over the years is we'll come out and, just have fun, through our social media. So many people in the fishing space are so serious about everything. They're going to teach you how to be an expert. You got to use this color line. You got to throw it under this friggin' dock. This is the spot. Blah 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 blah. In the meantime, we're over here cracking up listening to half of this stuff, and I think our videos have portrayed that over the years. And I want this podcast to be the same way. I want people to listen to the podcast. I want them to have a good time. You know what I mean? Because there's not too many. I've been listening to all the podcasts, and there's some really good ones. There's some friends of mine that are doing them, and I'm listening to every single one of them. And if I'm listening to them, they're obviously good. But every once in a while, I might chuckle for a second. And I'm thinking to myself, when we do Triple Live, or we go to LunkerCon, or we do a video, or anything, it's like we're always laughing and having a good time. So I want the podcast to kind of be the same way.
I couldn't agree more, man. And speaking of having fun, another thing is, the power casting videos. What's funny? You guys have gotten a lot of flack for those, but let me tell you, they're fun videos to watch.
Dude, do we get flack no matter what we do?
Yeah.
And
we got flack when we did Triple Live.
No, people did. The way I look at it is, I would not 50-50. You're not going to have 50% of the people hate you, but you should have about 25% of the people take exception or hate you, because that means you're getting 100% of the audience. You can't just get the people that like you. You have to be able to get some of the people that hate you also. And you can have a good time hating. Take wrestling, for instance, right? The WWF, the WWE, WrestleMania, and all that stuff.
UFC.
Right? You love wrestling, kind of like we love fishing.
Yeah.
And you have your favorite guys that you pull for and you get excited for. And then you have guys that you hate. You can't stand them. But it's a blast because the guy that you hate ends up wrestling the guy that you love, and the drama involved.
It just gets you all pumped up.
Right, it makes it entertaining. So... the Lunker Dog brand has always been that way. We're going to keep it that way, and we're excited to be that way. And if you don't like it, or you're offended, or triggered, or whatever the modern day word for being a little soft, harden up a little bit.
I think it's triggered.
You think triggered?
I think it's triggered is the new one. Amongst the millennials like me.
So the millennials, if I trigger any of you people, it's okay. Don't get depressed. Don't, get crazy angry. If you guys get triggered, it's okay.
But you know what, too? Sometimes when you bring up stuff, it's not because you're necessarily trying to trigger somebody. You might just be trying to kind of enlighten them. My generation needs some enlightening.
But your generation needs some enlightening.
Well, yes, I think a lot of them actually maybe need a freaking baseball bat to the back of the head. But I think that one video that comes to mind when I hear that is the one about using tying your knots. You remember that one?
Dude, the swivel guy video.
The swivel guys.
People love to refer to the swivel guy. I'm telling you, Steven, people call me up to do trips, right? And they'll say, hey, we were thinking about coming down in March. We want to know what the fishing's going to be like. And just want you to know, Captain Jeff, I'm not a swivel guy. I can actually tie knots, blah, blah, blah. And they'll refer to it. So obviously, we hit a button. We hit a hot button.
They remembered it.
Right.
And that's the key. Even if they say it didn't bother them or anything like that, if they remembered it, that means that you made an impact.
Right. You have to be able to spark some emotion. Now, the two things that I think we've done consistently through our social media presence is we've always sparked a lot of emotion. I mean, whether we do live events like LunkerCon, right?
Yep.
Like the last LunkerCon with the belly flop contest. I mean,
that was genius.
It was genius, and it was created through the Real Guy Network. You know, Bubba from Flats Mafia, it was his idea to do a belly flop contest.
But you see, the great thing about that to me is it's like, because most people, because when I was telling people, I said, oh yeah, we're doing the belly flop, and they were like, belly flop? At a fishing event? I said, yeah. They're like, why? I'm like, why not? Well, it's a big old pool. Why not?
But it's a legitimate question because they go to these fishing events and it's like, you know, seminar type. They're going to like show you how to rig something.
Like it's like there's like chairs and people in an audience.
Right.
Yeah.
Or banquet style.
Yeah.
Where people are sitting down and like you can choose meal A or meal B, chicken or fish. You know,
you have like 3 options on the menu. Right. You can choose 1, 2, or 3.
Right. Yeah, at LunkerCon, you can have anything you want. You can say anything you want. You can do anything you want. And it's always kind of been that way. The LunkerCon before that, with Mike Goodwine and Barracuda Castnet, sponsored the Captain Jeff Lookalike contest.
Was that Fort Lauderdale, right?
Right, that was Fort Lauderdale 2 years ago.
Yes.
And, you know, again, you know, it was like, you know, we're there to have a good time and to have fun. But it's the Fort Lauderdale LunkerCon, the Tampa LunkerCon. When you look across the room and you see the type of people that are in the room, to me, it's a big deal. And I tell you why, Steve. Because the people that show up to LunkerCon or any of our live events, we have the cream of the crowd, like the best fishermen, you know, come out, hang out, and want to just like be around one another. And I think that it just goes to show that the content over the years, we've appealed to the right people. The people enjoy it, and they want to come out, and they want to be part of it. And that's probably the part that I appreciate most. Kind of like the way you and I became friends. You know, you get turned on by the social network. We're hanging out at the Sail Fishing Club. You know, we get to know each other a little bit. Next thing you know, it's like, come on over, we'll do triple live.
And then it was, hey, we're having a fish fry. Come on over.
Yeah, the latest is the fish fry. And, you know, and the one common theme is we're always having a good time.
We are. You know, and it's funny, you know, we talk about at LunkerCon, when you look across the room and you see the kind of people, too. We have such a diverse group, right, which I love, because a lot of times, you know, you go to certain events and, you know, everybody's kind of just looks the same, whether it be what they're wearing or how they act. But you go to LunkerCon, you've got all different types.
Right.
And everybody's interacting and everybody's getting along and everybody's having a good time.
You know, I'll tell you something that touched me during the Tampa LunkerCon is, you know, the thing lasts pretty late at night, and, you know, at the end you have, you know, maybe a tenth of the people that were there, you know, during the peak of it. And I'm sitting there and I'm talking to Mike Goodwine, and Mike told me, he says he was really glad, you know, that he came because it wounded some heels. So
healed some
wounds that some fishing guides had with one another over there, and they came to LunkerCon, and, you know, they saw each other and they realized that, you know, it's time to, you know, let bygones be bygones. They had a good time at LunkerCon and they moved on.
Yeah.
And when Mike told me that, you know, after a long night and, you know, being tired and everything, it really
it puts it into perspective.
Right, it does put it in perspective, and it made me feel good. And it made me realize that our social network is different. It is. Our social network is different. I don't know if it's because where we started. You know, like sometimes I think about it like a pyramid scheme. You know what I mean? And when you're at the top, you know, when you're the first person's in that pyramid scheme, even though the numbers get bigger and bigger and bigger at the bottom, the guy at the top, the guy that was, you know, there first, everybody knows that, hey, you know, that's the Lunker Dog dudes. Those are the guys that did the boat ramp boys, that did the original fishing boat ramp reports, that did all that, mullet run stuff. And then they started doing their social media, and it kind of went down level after level after level after level. And then being at the top, everybody kind of understands, or in one form, fashion, or another, whether they even knew it or not, are in the pyramid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're all part of it. Another cool thing for me about LunkerCon that kind of put into perspective for me, our network is so big all across the country. And we had guys flying in from other states for LunkerCon.
I know, isn't that crazy? And
I got to tell you, I've actually come to get to know a lot of the people through the network that are not even down here. And it was so cool actually being at LunkerCon and having these guys come up. Danny Peace, I remember, for example, came up to me and he said, hey, he goes, you probably don't know who I am. He goes, my name's Danny. And I said, wait a second, Danny Peace? He goes, yeah. I was like, dude, you know what I mean? And it was cool being able to connect in, like, Socrates. I can't pronounce his last name for the life of me, but he was there. He come up to me, and I didn't really know what he looked like, but he was like, "Hey, Steven," and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "Who are you?" And he was like, "Oh, I'm Socrates." I'm like, "Dude,"
right.
And that to me is just, I don't really know any other social media networks that can really say they've experienced something like that.
Well, I think there's other networks that definitely, it's happened. But I don't know.
But not like on our level.
Right. I think the majority of people, they're flying from different states. They drive hundreds of miles to get there. And then when they get there, they really want to reach out and actually get to know. Actually, it's two parts to social media. The social part of it, a lot of people leave out. And the social part of the live events that we do, make it all come together, make it all real. You know what I mean? If there's one thing that we always go by, it's real guys doing real things. We try to keep it real no matter what. We don't let ad dollars get in our way. We don't let people that are favorites get in our way. We pretty much say what's on our mind, have a good time when we do it, and if we trigger anybody, they get triggered. They're just going to have to, it's just the way it goes. But anyway, I want to wrap this podcast up short because it's more of a test recording than anything else. Steven, real quick. Born and raised in Fort Lauderdale?
Dania Beach, actually.
Dania Beach, that's hardcore.
Oh, yeah.
Beach fishing is your favorite fishing?
Beach fishing is my favorite fishing.
All right. And you will be a regular on the podcast, Triple Live, and all the live events in 2019?
Yes, sir.
So you guys get to hear a lot more of Steven Busacca, the a.k.a. known as the Shepherd. And thanks for tuning in today, and run that dog.
Run that dog, y'all.